Your team, unfortunately, you guys fell to Team Liquid Game 5 in the LCS Finals, but that probably gives you the best amount of first-hand experience. So having just gone up against Liquid, what do you think about their chances, and by extension, North America's chances at MSI?
For sure. I think TL is a really good team. I think they have a lot of experienced veterans on their roster and like a pretty good identity of what they want to do. So I think a big reason why we lost is we had one like fairly new player in the top lane, and even our jungler was fairly new to how to work with like their team dynamic. And so in the end, their experience just barely edged us out. That being said, I think there's the other three major regions, which are Korea, China, and Europe. They all have like an equal amount of experience compared to TL, but they're also more talented or more versatile. So I think it's definitely going to be hard for TL to win the entire thing. That being said, I do think that at least there's an expectation for them to make the semifinals. And I think if they play against G2, especially if G2 has their support player, Mickey X, who's kind of out with a wrist injury. So if they happen to play them in the semifinals, they may have a good shot of making the finals at least.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a very talented competition with so many talented individuals. How do you guys, what do you think about the regions, how they'll stack up? What's the distinguishing factors that set each team's playstyle apart, such as G2's unorthodox team comps?
So there's actually a lot of regions going into this tournament. I think there's somewhere from like 11 to 12, something like that.
I think it's 13, actually.
Oh, maybe it is 13.
Yeah.
You're right. The play-ins have extra, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, obviously, I can just start from the top. Everyone's kind of expecting this to be like a three-horse race between G2 from Europe, SKT from Korea, and IG from China. I think they all have like fairly distinct reasons why they can win. I think SKT has like the best bot lane at the tournament. They have a lot of experience in that roster with Faker, Teddy, Mata, even Khan. While I think IG actually has some of the best solo laners. They won Worlds last year on the back of the Shy and Rookie. And I think they've just been on a tear since Worlds last year. And I don't think that's going to stop even going to this MSI. And then the third team that's actually in that top three is G2. I think they're the most unique team at this tournament because their best player was a mid laner. He swapped to AD carry position this year to allow for another talented mid laner to kind of be on his team. And I think they're so versatile. They're so fun to watch, and I think that's going to make them incredibly dangerous. Obviously, the caveat is their support player is currently either out with a wrist injury, or there's been like rumors in the scene saying that he's not playing scrims. So if he isn't able to make it on that stage, I think maybe you have to take like G2's chances down a peg. But overall, I think all three of those teams are pretty strong contenders for the title.
Well, you mentioned some players like Faker and Khan, and the discussion has largely been centered around the top side of the map because of players like these guys. And any upsets to the meta, should we keep our eye on any of these upsets?
For sure. So I think that the part of the map that you focus on is usually dependent on the meta. Personally, I haven't seen what like the most recent changes to the game are, but I expect them to be fairly similar to what's happened in playoffs and later on in the split, which is a lot of like mechanically intensive champions like Akali, Aurelia. So I do think that for the most part, the top side of the map will be like the more fun side to watch for most of the tournament. And like I said, the only exception to that is watching G2's bot lane play, because Perkz is not a traditional AD carry player, so he can pull out all of those crazy picks even in the bot lane. So I think that's what I kind of expect to happen this tournament.
Yeah, the one time we saw Perkz go on to a traditional AD carry in Xayah during the finals, he didn't even play it in bot lane. He played Mage's bot lane other than that. So
exactly.
I think that's definitely something to watch. So that, you know, you've named that you think G2 could be a big surprise in terms of what they bring out. The play-in stages start tomorrow. Do you think there are going to be any surprises coming out of there? Any teams you have your eyes on that might make a run that's deeper than we might expect?
So I think the play-ins include, I think the top wildcard regions are usually Brazil, Turkey, and Vietnam. Just depends on like who's representing each region that year. I do think that out of the play-ins, I think whoever advances there ends up playing Team Liquid and Flash Wolves in the bracket stage, or the play-in bracket stage. I actually think that Flash Wolves is relatively weaker this year after they lost. There's kind of 3-star players last year, I believe. And so I do think that, say, someone like Vietnam or Turkey makes it and plays Flash Wolves in that stage, they have it is possible for them to upset, because anything happens at like international tournaments, it's going to be like the first time that these regions play against each other. And so if they have good mechanical players, and so I do think that there is a chance. I don't think that TL will get upset in the play-in stage, however. I think they have too much experience in that roster to, they should at least make it to the next stage, if not the semis.
Okay, so you gave us a lot of your thoughts for MSI, but we also want to know, what has TSM been up to? What have you been up to recently?
For sure. So having an off-season is good and bad. Obviously, it's bad that we're not competing, but that also gives us a lot of time to kind of tweak and improve what we want to do. As a lot of you guys know, we completely rebuilt our League of Legends esports side this offseason. Most of our coaching staff is new. We invested more into our academy, and we're actually the only North American team to have a third squad in like the trainee or the junior team. So this offseason sort of gave us time to look at all of our assumptions that went into our team. So we're bringing on a few of our trainee players to Los Angeles in the summer to work on site. We brought on a new talented jungler to our academy squad, so both Greg and Acadian we can work with our LCS team. We're also working with Logitech's performance group that includes Andy Walsh, who's like a world-renowned player in like the field of elite performance, and we're like planning a large boot camp with him, with all of our staff and players in the mid-May, where we kind of step away from the game and look at our structure from like a more holistic level. And so basically just a lot of small changes and tweaks that we're making to make sure we're heading in like the right direction going into summer and Worlds.
Parth, thank you so much for previewing MSI for us. Now, you're a manager, right? So would you stick around and help us manage our perfect MSI draft?
For sure. Looking forward to it.
All right, awesome. Do not go anywhere, Parth. It's going to be create an ultimate League of Legends roster time in our mid-season invitational mock draft. Then we'll have the results to our Sonic the Hedgehog trailer poll. You're watching Cheddar Esports.
No, you're excited about that.
I love Sonic the Hedgehog.